Hi friends, welcome back. So headline, Nvidia passes Apple in market cap as second most valuable public US company. And yes, it happened. Nvidia passed Apple, and will it pass Microsoft to become the most valuable company in the world? That's the topic of this video. We're going to be talking about whether or not this is the top. Is this a good value for Nvidia? And how does it compare to other companies? So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I think you'll enjoy this video. So first, Nvidia, their last earnings back in February, they said, hey guys, we did 22 billion in revenue. Now times that by 4, and we'll say add some growth in there. Maybe they're going to do 100 billion this year, right? I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be. We'll say maybe, and they may even grow past that. So just keep those kind of numbers in mind so we have an idea what we're talking about here, right? So last quarter revenue was 22 billion. They are passing Apple, as we just saw. Can they get Microsoft to become the most valuable company in the world? So here's where Nvidia's at. They're at $3 trillion. That's like 3.011. Microsoft's at 3.151 trillion, and then Apple's at 3 trillion, and you can see a 003. Alphabet and Amazon are below that. Alphabet, Google is at 2.179. And then Amazon is at 1.886. So only 3 companies are 3 trillion, and you have a $2 trillion company in Google. If you ask Wall Street, because there's always a question, what does Wall Street think about Nvidia stock? So you have a price target of around 1205, which is kind of where it is right now. That's the stock that is. You have one Bank of America saying 1500, but then you got a bunch of other Wall Street people saying 1300, 1200, 1200, etc. in that range. If you ask the robots, what do you think is a fair value for Nvidia? I have $716 as a fair value, overvalued by 70%. Now, basically, the humans will come out, they'll go on TV, and they'll tell you, "Hey guys, there's this great story about Nvidia. Don't you know the story? Don't you know the all of the awesome things that are going to happen in the future?" The robots are just looking at numbers, so it's going to be a little bit different there. And I'll just be honest with you, the way our market's been going, it's just like, hey, tell a great story. Tell everyone all these wonderful things you're going to do in the future. Tell everybody that AI is going to replace all the workers, and it's going to be driving. It's going to be robots. It's going to be coding. It's going to be all kinds of things, and people get excited. But I do like to take a look at numbers at this stuff, because I think unfortunately a lot of people do ignore it. But I'll be honest with you as well. You can make money on hype, which clearly people have been doing. So how long can this hype keep going? So let me pull you up this, guys. This is actually a comparison between Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla. And I'm using these for an example because they're fun to talk about. I've said all along Tesla is overvalued. I still think it's overvalued. Nvidia is a little bit different because, I would say it's overvalued also, but it's different in the sense that Nvidia is actually growing like crazy. Tesla is not. Apple, Microsoft are slower growers as well in comparison, which I'll show you guys the numbers in a moment here. But this gives you a general sense of sort of like where we're at. Employees, Nvidia has to about 29,000 employees. Apple's 161,000 employees, so Apple's a much bigger company. Microsoft, 221,000 employees, and even Tesla, 140,000 employees. So just to give you a sense of like how big these companies are. Also too, this is actually kind of funny when you look at this chart, right? So back in say, December 2023, the stocks were all kind of doing the same performance, and then suddenly start of 2024, all this Nvidia hype just started just going crazy with AI, right? And it just shot right up like nuts. So literally you can kind of see it in the chart where, you have like a 200% performance on Nvidia, and this is in the past year. And then you have Microsoft 26%, Apple's 9%, and Tesla down about, 19, 20%. So really, really different. Nvidia has been carrying the market, and this kind of chart here really just shows you the gist of it. Moreover, you can scroll down here. These are the grades. I should like to show you this from time to time as a quick way to compare stocks. So Nvidia, they're growing, right? They're profitable. They have great momentum, etc. The problem is valuation, right? Is it valued fairly? You got a grade of F. You can compare this to the other tech companies, but this is just the reality. A lot of our stocks in the market are trading in a rich valuation. That's the best way to put it. Apple at a D-, Microsoft F, and Tesla F, right? Now, what's interesting though also is that Apple's not really growing. They got a D, Microsoft B-, and Tesla C. And these are just grades. We'll also look at actual numbers as well. This will also help you guys understand this. In terms of stock performance, we just showed you this as well, right? That was the essentially the 211 performance by Nvidia. You can take a look at the returns, right? Year to date, right? 5-year return is kind of nuts. Nvidia's done like 3,000% return in this 5 years. Apple at 351, Microsoft 260%. Tesla actually in the 5 year has actually done pretty well, right? And 1,255. But then when you compare to the 3 years, then you really get the differences. Nvidia at around 600%, Apple at 58%, something like that. Microsoft 73, and Tesla's actually down around 12%. Dividends, you guys can compare. So Nvidia does have a dividend, right? It's really small though. It's like 0.08%. So it's pretty negligible, but there is a dividend there. Tesla does not have a dividend. Apple and Microsoft both do have dividends. You can look at the safety, and then this is when, and this is, you can look at this stuff later if you want to pause the video, but this is when it becomes like a little bit easier to compare companies. You look at PE ratios, and essentially what is the price of stock compared to how much a company earns, right? If you want to look at GAAP or non-GAAP, we can look at them both. Nvidia, 43 non-GAAP, 29 for Apple, 35 for Microsoft, 68 for Tesla. You take a look at the PE gap, and this is right here. I'm looking at this one right here. 68 for Nvidia, 30 for Apple, 36 for Microsoft, 44 for Tesla. The basic gist of how you want to read these things is like, okay, again, what's the price of stocks compared to how much a company earns? And you essentially want your growth rates to be roughly to what your PE ratios are. So a good way to think about this is your PEG ratio, actually, and this will be a comparison here. So this is your PEG, right? PEG gap right here. Nvidia is at 0.08, Apple's at 3.31, Microsoft's at 1.44, and Tesla's at 3. Usually you want 1 or under 1, right? So the reason why Nvidia's numbers are so small here, and sort of essentially why the stock is going up, because their growth rates are so high. And you're actually going to see it when you come down here. And we're talking about revenue growth here. So, and you can talk about EBITDA growth as well. I mean, it's all right here in the numbers, or earnings per share growth, right? These are your earnings or your revenue. But essentially, this is why Nvidia is growing. The other stocks aren't growing at nearly the same rate. So year-over-year growth for revenue, Nvidia is at 208%, right? Look at the growth there. Whereas Apple's like down a bit, right? Basically flat. Microsoft, I'm talking about revenue growth, 13.97. Tesla 10%, right? So I wanted to show you these numbers. So even though I think Nvidia is overvalued, I do understand why it's going up like crazy, because people are indeed buying said chips. You can see it here in the numbers in terms of revenue growth. If you want to look at EBITDA growth, right? Nvidia 709%, which is nuts. Apple 4.7, 2%. Microsoft 25%, and Tesla down, right? EBITDA growth is down 26%, right? So again, this sort of tells the story. The issue though becomes, again, is like, yes, it's growing, but is the stock value really worth like that much? I mean, I guess it depends who you ask. So I don't think so. My personal opinion on this stuff, and I'll show you more numbers and stuff. But again, you can make your own decisions, and I'm just showing you guys the numbers on this stuff. Profit margin. So Nvidia's got pretty good margins. 75%, Apple at 45, Microsoft 69, Tesla at 17. And also too, when you guys compare these companies, you kind of see like, okay, this is why Tesla's a dog. and you can literally see it in the numbers. And sadly, when people, talk about these companies, they don't actually, how can I say, look at it in comparison, right? This is sort of a good way to look at it. This is something that really stands out to me though, is the revenue part. And that's why I mentioned the revenue part in the beginning. Look how much revenue Apple does in a year, like 381 billion, Microsoft 236 billion, right? So Nvidia, these numbers are a little bit old. They're saying about 80 billion a year. Maybe it's going to be 100 billion. It could be a little bit more, but you're looking at, talking about revenue, right? So not necessarily your profits, but you're looking at, like what, 1/4 of the revenue of Apple, right? Or half the revenue of Microsoft. So this is where it gets kind of crazy talk when you're like, okay, how are you moving up so much? And even if we look at their, gross profit or net income, you guys, the numbers are right here. So, net income 42 billion for Nvidia compared to Apple's 100 billion, right? So it's like half. Gross profit for Nvidia 60 billion, whereas Apple has a gross profit of like 173 billion, right? It's like these numbers are starkly different. And again, these are a little bit dated numbers, right? If you want to update numbers, you can, but I'm just want to give you guys this like an idea of how to compare these and like why it's a little bit nuts that Nvidia is moving up so quickly in terms of stock value. Tesla net income, right, 13 billion, gross profit, 16 billion, these etc., which is like essentially what Tesla's like 1/8 of the other companies there as well. Also want to show you guys this is an interesting one. This is your cash, your balance sheet, right? So Nvidia 31 billion, Apple 67 billion, Microsoft 80 billion. Again, total cash. Tesla 26 billion, and then you take a look at the debt to equity ratio. You can see here 22% for Nvidia, lower is higher here. Debt to equity, right? 140% for Apple, 41% for Microsoft, and 50% for Tesla. So Tesla actually isn't so bad. We talk about this in terms of their debt to equity, not so bad. And then lastly, you want to take a look at the cash flow statement, right? So net operating cash flow. You can see it right here. Nvidia 40 billion, Apple 110 billion, Microsoft 110 billion, and Tesla at what is this? Roughly 11 billion. So I just wanted you guys to take a look at this stuff. You can compare any of these, various numbers. The key ones for me though is when I look at the P ratios and stuff like that. And again, you're talking about now a $3 trillion company, and their price to sales. Just you can take any numbers that you want. It's like 36 for Nvidia compared to that's the price of stock compared to the sales the company does. 7.92 to Apple. The ratio is over, 13 at 0.07 for Microsoft and 5.86 for Tesla. I mean, yes, Nvidia is growing, guys, but these P ratios, these price to sales, however you want to look at it, it just seems overvalued to me. Now, the way for this to basically come in and prove me wrong and prove any sort of doubters wrong is just that they just have great earnings, and just keep growing. But that's the question: can they keep growing at these kind of rates? It seems unlikely to me, right? This is the stock rate. Where is it here? We were looking at like this revenue growth of 200% year over year. I mean, they're saying again, guys, these are projections. You never know what's going to happen. Going forward, are they really going to grow 80% in revenue? Are they going to do that all the time? I mean, I just there's only so many amount of customers that need their chips. I think they're selling like $40,000 chips, etc. And I know all of the big companies are buying it. So be it like your Meta, your Apples, whatever. Tesla's ordering, or actually I shouldn't say Tesla. I'll just say Tesla ordered some, but then those orders got diverted over to XAI. So Elon wants these things. Other companies want these things as well. But my feeling is after you buy them, it'll be a cyclical thing, right? You upgrade your servers and your data centers or whatever, right? Your cloud services, you have it, and then can you make a profit on it, right? And if you're not making a profit on it, talking about other companies, then it's not worth it buying more chips or investing more into it. So that's going to be the thing. Yes, it grew very quickly, but can it continue? I don't think it'll grow at these rates. I don't think Nvidia is going to go to zero or anything like that, but that's sort of what we're pricing in. We're pricing in these ludicrous growth levels. So anyway, just wanted to share these numbers with you. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, and it's fun to compare these companies when you take a look at the numbers just right here. And I'll catch you all in the next video.